Absolutely. And I appreciate this question because it pulls on little boy me, which was very much in like I grew up in the black church. So that was always a part of my life. And sports was always a part of my life. I played all the sports as a kid. You know, my dad played in the NFL for a long time, so it was just part of the air that I breathed in my family. And so those two things were always true. And in hindsight, I can say I was always a nerd too, just on the undercover. And so, when of course, I never aspired to do theology. I did like writing books, doing theology, teaching. That was never in the cards. So I thought, right? I went to college to play football, and of course, throughout my time playing football as an athlete, like I paid attention to the way that people treated me. I knew I was black early on in life. Everybody's got story about like when did you find out you were black, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but that was always a part of my understanding, right? It was something that I always knew and paid attention to. It wasn't until I was kind of on the tail end of playing football. I went to the University of Kansas, had big dreams to follow, really kind of in the footsteps that my dad had laid out, but in my own way, and had some injuries, had some misfortune while playing football, but was still, the black church was still a big part of my life. So I eventually, kind of my senior year at KU, um, went through the process of like being licensed and ordained as a minister, thinking that my path was taking me to pastoral ministry, and that's what got me to go to seminary school. And it was in seminary school where some of my old kind of held beliefs from childhood began to unravel, and where some of these integrative pieces started to come back, where it's like I had more questions. And so ultimately, I was hungry to continue to learn, and what I thought was a call to pastor opened up more broadly. So I went and did the PhD in theology and social transformation. And that's really where these pieces became to where I couldn't ignore. Um,
Mhm.
Thinking about Black athletes in particular, thinking about how society typically talked about Black athletes, which again was something that I was familiar with since I was a kid, because I was navigating those narratives every day. And so and also being a comedian at heart, growing up with an appetite for Black stand-up comedy, so having this kind of critical sensibility to want to call bullshit on the narratives that I saw, and I knew they weren't true, right? So yeah, thinking about just broaden societal limits, there was that part of me that was like, this is the way that we talk about Black athletes, the way that we talk about Black people we know it's racist, but it's also not true to form when we actually look at and study people's embodiment. So
Yeah.
let me try to set the record straight.